This is the most overlooked action in the hover strolling rig. The hover strolling technique is getting very popular right now in the US, and I am going to be sharing with you today my favorite way to fish this finesse style of technique. Hover strolling was designed to be fished in the upper water column with slow sinking lures. I found myself loving the OG style rigging method from Japan because of a unique action that it creates, and I don't see this action being portrayed much in the mainstream US scene. While you could use the hover strolling rig to be fished in many different ways, the action that I'm showing you today is what I believe that gotten hover strolling popular in the first place, and that is the micro rolling. In this video, I'll be showing you the favorite plastic I've been using that have been generating a lot of bites for me when I am using the hover strolling rig. I'm going to show you how to put together the hover strolling rig. The OG style came from Japan. And this is really important because this is how you generate that rolling effect. Then I'm teaching you the retrieve that will generate that rolling effect. I'm going to share with you the setup that I use to fish hover strolling. And lastly, I'm going to show you several clips of me slaying using hover strolling rig from fall and winter. Y'all ready for this? So my favorite soft plastic to use for hover strolling is this right here, Fisharrow Flash-J 3-inch. I mainly use the 3-inch version and I catch pretty much everything, catching bass, crappies, bluegill, yellow perch, white perch, you name it. Man, those pickerels, they take it. Woo, they love it, okay? Let me tell you why I love this plastic. First and foremost, this plastic here is hollow. Therefore, it floats, and when you add all the terminal tackle on, all the hardware, this guy here is gonna sink slow. So sinking slow is the key for hover strolling because you can keep the lure in the strike zone a lot longer. The next thing I like about this lure here is the mylar strip. See that mylar strip right there? This is amazing. It creates a crazy flash, especially with the action that I'm teaching you today. Look at that. See that? Generates a lot of flash. And then if you look at the tail, right? It got a lot of action on the tail, but it's very subtle, so it triggers a lot of bites. Another thing about the mylar strip is that it creates a little bit of crunching noise, kind of like a bag of potato chips. Listen to this. And I'm gonna move it around because I'm not sure where the mic's gonna pick up. And this one right here. So yeah, this mylar strip here is actually like a wide piece of mylar strip, maybe the same height of the minnow, and I think the way they shoved it in here, it folded in half. So when a fish actually bites this, it potentially generates some micro crunches, and it may feel a little bit more natural. But this thing right here, it's freaking packed with a lot of little stuff, man. I'm telling you, this is why I love this lure. The flash, the slow sinking, and the sound. Alright, so I'm going to show you the OG rigging style method. I keep it pretty much plain Jane simple. I am using the Fisharrow, their spine hook, size 2 hook, okay? And they actually collaborate with Decoy to make this hook. And the way that you need to rig this plastic is that this 90 degrees hook, like unweighted hook, no lead on it, you are supposed to rig it on the top. And that's one of the key of getting this lure to roll, okay? So you want to rig it pretty much right at the start of the eye, and you want to thread the shank of the hook pretty much as high as possible to the soft plastic. Once you get it out, if you want to keep the lure on for a long time, I just like to back it out just a little bit, okay? Like from here, just like that. And then you dab a little bit of super glue right there and just pull it right back in, and you'll be fishing this lure for quite a long time. The next thing you want to do is put a nail weight on your lure, and I like to use tungsten because it's a lot smaller and you get a lot lighter, okay? So I have some nail weights that's 0.3 grams, and that's really light, but I primarily use 0.6 gram, and I pretty much fish this hover strolling rig anywhere between subsurface all the way down to 3 or 4 feet. But what you want to do is you want to put the weight pretty much low as possible, because when you have your hook high as possible and you have your weight low as possible, that's how you're going to generate that rock and roll. Now, I see some people doing the nail weight exactly at the nose of the plastic. That is actually a different rig. It's called a spine rig or spiral rig. A little bit different. A lot of people are using that method because they want to do the spiral, you know, when you cast out and you give slack line and let it spiral down kind of like a tube bait. That method can work too, okay? And it's nice to have like one style of rigging, and you know, you do different type of tactics, right? All in one rig. But what I found is that the spiral rig does not roll as easy as compared to when you have your sinker, your weight plugged at the lowest part of your lure. So depending on the plastic that you use, you can figure out where you can place it the best so that it could do the rolling effect. But for me and for this fish out lure, the weight had to be at the lowest point of the plastic. All right, let's talk about the action of this lure here. I'll first start off by talking about how this lure behaves when you cast out there and just do a slow roll, because strolling is really just a slow rolling technique, okay? So this lure here, the Fisharrow, when you rig it this way, the OG method, when you cast this out there, when you retrieve this, it does a very little subtle side-to-side roll, okay? And that's the action that most people are using right now in the US, is to just cast it out there and just slow roll it. Again, they probably employ other techniques like the spiral rig, let it fall, slack line and let it spiral down. But for the slow rolling technique portion, when you reel this in, it doesn't do much, okay? It's very, very subtle, okay? It does roll very little because of the way that you rigged it. You put the hook in the top right here and back a little bit, and because of the front of your lure and the weight hits the water, right? It's gonna roll just a little bit and that's it. But if you want to generate that crazy roll and crazy flash, you have to do jiggle of your rod tip. Like, you are not twitching your rod tip hard. It's not like you're trying to fish a slash bait, jerk bait so that you dart this thing all around. I mean, that is a technique and that is a way to present some of these lures, but that is not how you would use a hover strolling lure that weighs very, very light and it doesn't sink fast, okay? You want to do micro twitches, and jiggling the rod tip, you get it to roll just like that. Now, you could definitely dart it a little bit depending on the fish behavior. If you're fishing, a feeding hour during the spring and summer, obviously you can fish a lot faster, therefore you could definitely twitch it. But when you're fishing colder season or cold fronts and stuff like that and you need to slow it down, just a slow retrieve and adding a jiggle to the rod tip will create this nice little flash and it will trigger a lot of fish. Now, you can also jiggle your rod tip while you're pendulating. Pendulating is when you cast out there and you put your rod tip high and you don't reel, and so your lure actually fall down this way, just like that, right? Well, while it's falling down, you can jiggle the rod tip just a little bit and it'll create that rock and roll motion. Now that you know how to hover stroll, let me share with you the tackle that I use to do hover strolling, and I love bait finesse. While you could use spinning setup, I prefer to use bait finesse setup. So with that said, let me go over the reel first. I have the new Ark Gravity BFS Reel. This just got released in the end of 2023, so I truly believe that this is going to be the hottest bait finesse reel in the US market for 2024. It's priced at $150, and the performance of this reel, fantastic. You put an ultralight rod and put very thin line on, put a little bit of line on, you cast down half a gram, which is insane, all right? But anyway, we are not doing ultralight fishing. We are basically using a light tackle rod. And what I have here is the Tsurinoya Dragon 2. This is the C702L, but unfortunately this specific model is no longer in production. But you get the 6-foot 6-inch version, and it's 2-piece. And the specs is pretty much the same thing. It's rated down to 2 grams, and this whole lure right here casts really well on this rod. And it has a fast tip action, but it has a moderate fast midsection, and this is really important for this technique here because we are using very, very thin hooks here and very small. And let's say you hook onto some very, very nice crappies, big slabs, but when you set the hook, you could potentially rip their mouth. So keeping them pinned with a very nice bend of the rod will allow you to land those fish a lot easier. And same goes for the big fish, a big bass. They like to jump, so having a rod that could bend really well will keep those fish pinned. For the main line, I recommend using very thin braid line. I am using 0.6 Go. I'm using PE line from Varivas. This is their Max Power X8. And I recommend using Varivas line because their lines are fantastic. And you can just check out their entry-level line, the Varivas 4 or Varivas 8. The Varivas 4 is a 4-line carrier, and then of course 8 is 8. I primarily use the 4-strand, and a 0.6 Go is approximately 10 pounds. So that's more than enough for doing your finesse fishing, and you always need to have leader material. I like to have at least 6 pounds, and you can use fluoro if you want your lure to sink faster, or you have crystal clear water, or you use mono, and that will make it sink a little slower. I have about a yard to about a rod length of line, and I like to use the Albright knot to connect my PE line to my leader material. All right, now that you know everything you need for the hover strolling rig, let me share with you a few cast-to-catch clips from the last fall into current winter fishing. I caught a lot of different species using hover strolling rig, and man, this is a banger. These clips are from late fall 2023 into winter, so sit back and enjoy. Got one. Oh yeah. I'm telling you, man, these Japanese style finesse techniques, amazing. You know, I don't think I catch that many bass typically if I don't target bass. Like, I typically catch more crappies. You know, doing this technique here today caught me a lot of bass. Back to glare. Oh my gosh. Got him. I had to jiggle this one out, and he's a good size. The flash of this lure, woo, it just turns him on. Look at that, big one, big chunky. Here we go. I'm still strolling for perch. All right. This is a better looking one. Look at the colors. Yeah, I went to a jig and it wasn't doing too well. Went back to hover strolling for the shallow water, and I'm doing it well. I hope you have enjoyed this video about hover strolling. That little micro rock reel is a killer presentation, and I hope that you'll be able to use it the next time you use the hover strolling technique. If you have any questions or you have any recommendations for hover strolling plastics, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I'll be creating more hover strolling videos in the near future to portray other type of plastics and also rigging methods. Thank you all for watching The Fish Don't Wait. Get your hover strolling tackle and your bait finesse game at Bait Finesse Empire.